Hey, welcome into the REVO Church Podcast. My name is Jamie. I'm the discipleship pastor here at REVO, and I'm so excited that you decided to click on this video and to join us in this new season where we're going to be looking at spiritual disciplines. We're going to be seeking to understand what they are, why they're important, and why you should be striving to live a disciplined life. You see, when I was in high school, my favorite thing to do was wrestle. It was my favorite sport. Most people chose their sports based off of what's going to make them popular. What will their friends think? Maybe they pick it on like, will a girl like me? Nah, not me. I chose wrestling for one reason. I wanted to prove that I was better than someone else. See, most sports force you to play on a team where you're dependent, but wrestling is different. See, when you're on the mat, it's you versus your opponent. It's me versus him. And so to win, I used to wake up every single morning and I would run so that I stayed in shape. I dieted so that I could maintain my weight class. I worked out and I lifted weights every day, sometimes even multiple times a day, so that I would be nice and strong. I even practiced multiple times a day. Either at school practice, at club practice, or by myself, I would shadow wrestle. And I did this every day. And I did it for 4 years straight because I love the sport and I wanted to be the best. I didn't consider it a discipline or that I was disciplined. I just wanted to be the best. And it wasn't until my junior year of high school that one of my coaches came up to me halfway through the season. And he said, if I continue to stay disciplined and work hard, then I had a shot at going to college for wrestling. And that was the first time that I ever considered myself disciplined. Not because I was disciplined, but because I love the sport. See, spiritual disciplines are the exact same thing. See, I believe that we so often hear the phrase spiritual disciplines and we get scared because they'll require us to sacrifice. We have to be disciplined. It requires us to give something up. And while, yes, they will require you to be disciplined, it's not about the action, it's about the what. It's not about the what are you doing, it's about the who are you doing it for. Athletes don't train for the training, but they train for the sport. And so us as Christians must also train, not for the training, but for the love of the one who died for us. Remember what Paul said in Galatians chapter 2, verse 20. He said, I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. So the life I now live in the body, I live because of the faithfulness of the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself up for me. You see, Christ died for us, and we are to live a life in respect and reverence of who he is. So when we are talking about spiritual disciplines, what we mean is this. Spiritual disciplines are actions that will grow us closer to God and will promote spiritual maturity. Spiritual disciplines are simply meant to bring us closer to Jesus. They're meant to make us mature believers. Spiritual disciplines are what helps us move from immaturity and immature believers to mature believers. They're meant to make us move from believers that drink milk and are not fully formed believers to believers who are now eating the full meat of the gospel, as Paul described it in 1 Corinthians 3, verse 2. He said this, I fed you milk, not solid food, for you are not yet ready. In fact, you are still not ready. And so over this series, when we talk about spiritual disciplines, we're going to be looking at 8 disciplines that are going to help you grow in maturity. And they are Bible reading, Bible study, prayer, fasting, giving, serving, worship, and rest. Each one of these disciplines is meant to promote in you and in me a spirit of maturity that will bring us closer to God, that will help us move from milk to meat. And each one of these is meant to help us fulfill what Peter tells us in 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 15 and 16. Peter said, but like the Holy One who called you, become holy yourselves in all your conduct. For it is written, you shall be holy because I am holy. See, the spiritual disciplines are meant to make us holy like Christ is. They're meant to produce in us fruit that Paul said leads to eternal life. But the important thing to remember about spiritual disciplines is this: they are not the ends, they are simply the means. They are not the ends that we are meant to follow. They are simply the pathway to get to God and grow in our maturity. If we fail to see these disciplines and habits as responses to divine grace, we will slip into the trap of thinking that they will have value in themselves. Those people that think this way will think that prayer and fasting, they think that they are spiritually superior to those who do not do them. Their disciplines become external. They're self-energized and they're law-driven. They are tempted to quantify spirituality by reducing it to a set of external practices rather than an internal, grace-drawn process of transformation. Instead, we must see the disciplines as external practices that reflect and reinforce internal aspirations. See, spiritual growth is not outside in, spiritual growth is inside out. And our focus should be more on the process of inner transformation toward the gospel than an outward set of routines. This understanding will free us from thinking that disciplines are magic in themselves. Spiritual disciplines are good servants, but poor masters. They are useful means, but they are inadequate ends. The thing to remember about spiritual disciplines is that it isn't about the disciplines themselves, but instead about the God they are meant to bring you closer to. So I'm excited to see how God works over these next 2 months as we dive into spiritual disciplines. I'm excited to see what happens when we step out and start moving from milk to meat. I'm excited to see what happens when we take what Peter said to be holy as I am holy, when we take that serious and start to make our life based around Jesus and his gospel. Church, I'm so excited to see what God's going to do for us. My name is Jamie. This has been the REVO Church Podcast. If you're excited to see all about the spiritual disciplines, make sure you subscribe to our channel. We'll be dropping one every single week. I'm so glad you joined us.